You stole an Atlas airship? What were you thinking? You might have been shot down! How unbelievably irresponsible!
I'm sorry I worried you. But we did what we had to do.
I suppose I understand.
In Volume 7, Chapter 2, RWBY and her team admit to a crime, which, yeah, General Ironwood laughs over that, but Winter gets mad at Weiss as she starts shouting at her. And what the score does is supports this action by playing Winter's theme in with a trumpet. And not only that, but underneath that trumpet we get a colourful harmony of tense dramatic chords. How does Weiss respond to this? Well, she surprises Winter by showing her affection and she hugs her. And the music also gets completely turned around. Instead of Winter's theme carrying on, Weiss's theme gets played, which is in the same key, so that's really easy for a composer to do. That melody gets played with a flute and a harp, and the chords get very tender. Something impressive about this score, actually, is the voicings.
Let's take a look at the voicings. What are the voices? You take a chord, right? But you don't have to play the notes of the chords all in the same order. You can have maybe the root on top, or you can take away some notes if you need. I'm gonna take a look at the shape of the chords. First chord we get is A5. It's called A5 because it only has two notes, the 1 and the 5. It's not very colorful, especially since the melody plays a 5 and a 1, but it does a terrific job of establishing the root as, you know, A. So, okay, this is definitely home. And then we go into A sharp major, a chord with tighter voicings. You can see that they converge, right? The violin, which is the top voicing on these chords, goes down, as well as the viola, which is the middle voicing on these chords, and the bass goes up, which is the bottom voicing of these chords. Something worth noting is that this chord is more colorful. One, because it's in Phrygian, it uses a Phrygian chord. If you watch my videos, you know that the prominent characteristic about the Phrygian mode is that it has a flat second, which is only a half step away from the root note, which sets up lots of dissonance, which feels so satisfying to resolve. Alex is basically using the melodies that we know and love and putting them through drama, right? In fact, you can hear, right, how this note interacts with both chords. In this section, we get one chord, which is the A5, and in this new section, we get the A sharp major. This note to the A5 is simply an octave. But as soon as A sharp major starts playing, the root note gets pulled up so that the interval with the melody is different. It's no longer an octave, it's something slightly closer. It's a major seventh, which is a very colorful and interesting interval. And that's where we get so much color. We also get a major seventh here because the viola is actually playing also A, which is, again, octave here, major seventh here. We definitely get lots of contrast between the harmony and the melody. It's not only Phrygian versus Aeolian, it's also rhythmic. So the viola has this unbalanced rhythm which plays a note in the middle of the second chord of the first two measures. This was probably done, subconsciously or not, to complement the pretty little approach notes that take this melody from the first to the fifth, or from the first to the first. Da-na, first three beats, and then the fourth beat is decorative notes. The first three beats, the viola plays A, and then it plays something else for the last beat. We go back to A minor. You can see the similarity between this chord and this chord, right? The viola and the violin are identical. But the bass, instead of playing the root note of this chord, is playing the third of this note. This doesn't mean we are in C minor or C major or whatever, because this is just a turnaround of A. So if I shift this C up, we get A minor. I would understand why it would be misleading, since harmony is much affected by the bass voicing, but this third in the bass serves the purpose of completing this ascension that it's making from the first to the fifth. Here we have D minor, and the offbeat rhythm of the viola plays a note that approaches the next chord, right? You can see how this viola line is following a journey, which actually generates a tritone, which is interesting. It's foreshadowing dissonance. Not only are we getting this dissonance, but we're getting a rhythmic motion down, well, actually up in the melody. We're getting these fast full notes from Winter's melody. Our voicings get even closer together, they hug. This is well, it says D sharp here. I prefer to call it E flat diminished. And this whole chord is basically a huge approach from this chord to this chord. Every single note from this chord is only a half step away from the next chord. We even get that tightening effect because the viola and the violin descend while the bass ascends. The root note is the tritone of the key. So we are in A right here, and E flat is the tritone of A. This tritone serves this purpose especially well because it respects the ascension of the bass from the first to the fifth again, providing a sweet, tense approach to the end goal. Speaking of the end goal, we get E5 add 7. Why not E7th or E minor 7th? Look, here's the deal. When I was transcribing this, I definitely thought it was a major 7th. I definitely did, because it fits so well with the resolution of the harmony. It doesn't fit with the melody. So even now we're getting this contrast between harmony and melody. And this is what it would sound like if I had a major 7th. You can see here, right? This second note that gets played on that chord, which is this one, is the minor third, which contrasts in an ugly way with the major third in the chord. So if it's not major 7, it's minor 7. Easy. It just doesn't have that same effect of resolution. Major third contrasts with the melody. Minor third doesn't really complement the harmony. Which one does Alex choose? He just omits the third. It's a power move. He still gets all the emotions from the harmony, and it doesn't have any conflicts with the melody. In music theory, there's this thing called a cadence, right? A cadence is a behavior that you expect out of a chord progression in functional harmony. And functional harmony is that music theory that organizes every note into keys and modes, thus giving them a function. So if music were a road, some chords would be the starting points, some chords would be the crossroads. For example, there's this thing called a perfect cadence. A perfect cadence occurs if from the fifth you go to the first. Here's what it would sound like if it followed the rule I just mentioned. So if it went back to the 1. It would close itself, and I think Alex is trying to avoid closure at all costs, especially from the last chords, because they're pretty but they don't really lead anywhere. They have some dissonance but not a whole lot of resolution, and I think it's because in the score, in the chapter, we shouldn't really ever get closure in the middle of an episode. In the chapter after this, we get a crow theme. I mean, when Weiss hugs Winter, Winter can't be mad at Weiss anymore, so she gets mad at Crow. What we get later is this F major. F major is the flat sixth of a Aeolian. Remember how I said that thing about the perfect cadence? This isn't a perfect cadence because it's not going back to the one. Otherwise, it would have this unwanted closure feeling to it. This is what's known as a deceptive cadence because in some capacity it went against our expectations. Instead of getting that closure, we get more song and more chords. And I feel like this is Winter trying to get her point across, but being interrupted before she even finishes her sentence, before she even gets her closure. That's the nature of every human argument, isn't it? Trying to get our point across. And Weiss turns it into this beautiful thing. I mean, Weiss doesn't really care about being right, you know. She cares about being with her sister. And then we get close voicings, you know, it gets the bass takes the spotlight with its very nice intervals. We get a tritone here with paired up with this diminished chord, which is very tense. And then we get a nice F major again. I feel like it's Winter being melted down because she's barking at Weiss like the soldier she is, and then she's being melted down to a sister. And that's something I want to talk about in future videos about Winter, because I don't want to shut up about it. Really, I don't. I'm not planning on doing that. It's been a year since I opened my channel. My first video was up in the 17th of December last year. And since then, I've built up 160 subscribers, and thank you all so much. And 8 loving, fantastic patrons. A shout out to Wilmer Ventura, my $10 Patreon. A shout out to Giorgia, Ileana, Roberto, and David, my $5 patrons. And lastly, but not leastly, a shout out to Sara, my $2 Patreon. Until more Winter videos come out, I guess you could surf my channel and pick something you like. Bye.